So the question is, why is it called the Yamim Noraim? And it's not just because these days are days which instill awe. It's got to be deeper than that. And this is, I think, one of the key things that one needs to learn and appreciate as we develop in our understanding of Torah in any sense. All of these words are coda. They represent something. They have an inner meaning. They have a deeper meaning. And if we have the courage and the ability to look at the sources and think a little bit, something quite amazing begins to emerge. So let's ask ourselves the following question. The Matryoshka, not very good. We have Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, but just before Sukkot, we kind of have this other tiny little doll inside of it called the Yamim Noraim, Rosh Hashanah, Aseret Yemei Tshuva, Yom Kippurim, and they all come together because there's a cycle within a cycle. And they are threes. And whenever we have a three in Yiddishkeit, in fact, whenever we have any three, but we're not going to do that tonight, what does it mean? It means that you have an idea, and then you have another idea that appears to contradict it, and you then have something else which resolves thesis, antithesis, synthesis that you have in the philosophy. Then you have something else that combines these two ideas that appear to be impossible. They cannot get on with each other, and together somehow they combine and they create something that is awesome. That's the game, giving the game away. That's it. Something which is so much more than just the contents and the ingredients. It's something new, something huge, something that could only come about from the resolution of tension and conflict and, right? That's what we're looking for. So you have Avraham, chesed, loving kindness. Do you deserve it? No, it doesn't matter. Chesed is just about the giving. It's the motivation to give. Whether the person who is receiving it deserves it or is irrelevant. It's about giving. It's a motivation. Chesed, by the way, of course, is not an activity. It is a midah. It is a motivation. The exact opposite is din, judgment, justice. Only that which is totally deserved. Only that which is deserved. Now, neither of these on their own are the ideal. And what we have is the third that somehow manages to combine the two to create something glorious, something beautiful, something true, something lasting. And I used every single one of those words very deliberately. Tiferes, Emes, Torah, Rachamim, they're all synonyms. They're all one and the same thing. We have Avraham Avinu's chesed, just to give and give and give. We have Yitzchak demanding of himself and of others only that which is utterly and totally deserved. And then we have Yaakov, who is the Bechir Sheba Avos. He is the apex, the highest part. His image is on the Kisei HaKavod, and maybe we'll get back to that, whatever that means. He represents the ideal, and he somehow manages to resolve and to combine the giving of chesed and the demanding of din, and to create something. What does he create? He creates glory, he creates emes, he creates Torah, and he endures. Yaakov Avinu loy meis. Whatever that means, says the Gemara. Yaakov Avinu doesn't die. Truth endures, it persists. And we're called after him. We are B'nai Yisrael. Yaakov Avinu goes to sleep and he has a dream. And he realizes he's in a very holy place. And he wakes up and he says the following words. Manoira hamokoim hazeh. Wow, how awesome this place is. He's the first person. This is the first time we encounter this word, noira, in the Torah, which means this is connected and totally identified with who Yaakov is. Hence, we have the Yamim Noraim. They have to chart an impossible course. They have to take the demands of Hashem, which is din, Rosh Hashanah, din, judgment, justice. It's not a joke. It's real. And we have the loving kindness of Hashem forgiving us. And somewhere in between we have Teshuvah, and He provides us with that link. Hence, they are the Yamim Noraim. That's just a little bit of an introduction. And I will add, because we won't get to it tonight, that's why the central bracha of the Yamim Noraim, and this is Rosh Hashanah and Yom HaKippurim, when we've done the bracha, what is called the bracha al Kedushas Hayoim, how does it finish? Ki ato Elokim emes, udvarcho emes, v'kayom lo ad. That's what we say. Now it makes sense. Ki ato Elokim emes. That's Yaakov's middle. Udvarcho emes, v'kayom lo ad. It endures. That's because, and that is the Baruch Atah Hashem, Mekadosh Yisrael, v'yom hazikaron, or Melech Meichel al kol v'serech, b'yom HaKippurim. But that concept, Ki ato Elokim emes, udvarcho emes, v'kayom lo ad, that's Yaakov. He provides us. So he's the trailblazer. He's the standard bearer. We need to look to him to try and understand how this works. And with this, we begin to understand something else quite amazing. Quite amazing. And here's where we start our work. In the sheets, I made, should be enough, I made 25. So, a word about the structure. Shemona Esra. How does Shemona Esra work? What does it look like? And please forgive me, I'm stating the obvious, but I'll quickly go through it. It's obvious, because I must admit, rather embarrassingly, that I don't think I had fully appreciated it until I was preparing it a bit more this afternoon. It had passed me by, so thank you. I'll share this with you. You know, this is why we all need to learn and teach and think, because it forces us, hopefully, to be clear. So let's look at every Shemona Esra, because we need to realize, forget Malchi as the Chreina Shofros, we'll actually do that next time. I mean, don't forget them. But we'll talk about them next time. But that's not what is revolutionary about the tefillas of Yom Noraim. There is something else utterly radical and groundbreaking in the tefillas of Yom Noraim. Let's think about this for a minute. Every Shemona Esra, whether it's Shabbos, the weekday, Yom Tov, it has a very familiar pattern. 3 in the beginning, in which we acknowledge and deepen our appreciation of different aspects of Hashem's greatness. And that's just to put us in the frame of mind before we present it with our laundry list, our shopping list. Yes, our whatever, we give me this, give me that, give me the other. Have a nice day. Moedim anachnu loch, and then hoidois, and then 3 at the end, where we acknowledge. We acknowledge and we thank. And that's the familiar pattern until we come to Shabbos. And there the Gemara says that Shabbos, you know, we say on Shabbos, Shaloi sahit tzara v'yogoin va'anocha b'yom menuchaseinu. Shabbos, the Gemara says, Loi atruchuhu. Chazal didn't want to bother us, because imagine on Shabbos is meant to be a day of simcha, right? A day of rest, a day of, yeah? And then imagine we were to ask oh gosh, I'm reminded of the fact that I don't have shalom bayis, I don't have panels, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have the other, we don't have a that's not Shabbos. And that's the reason that we don't, says the Gemara. It's as simple as that. Shaloi sahit tzara v'yogoin v'anocha, and therefore we don't ask about koshers on Shabbos. So instead, we talk about Shabbos 3 different ways, etc. Fine. Yom Tov, again, what do we do on Yom Tov? We speak about it in the Kedem Kevs, Yala v'yovoi, Ato b'chartonu, you chose us, you gave us this Yom Tov, and please give us a really nice Yom Tov. Give us the brachas associated with the Yom Tov. Baruch atah Hashem Mekadosh Yisrael v'hazmani. And that is the standard format in every single Shemona Esrei, Shabbos, and Yom Tov until we do something incredible here. Let's have a look. Let's look inside. And now this should really hit you. One more point, the final point, just before we do this. The three first brachas of Shemona Esrei are Avos, Gevuros, and Kedusha. The first bracha, we talk about the Avos, the patriarchs in general, although it is most specifically referring to Avraham Avinu. Hence, we finish off with Baruch Atah Hashem Mogen Avraham, and the reason, says the Maharal, is because in Avraham, of course, you have the seed of Yitzchak and Yaakov somewhere, not the other way around. Yesh Ba'av Klech Haben, and not the other way around, so it's in there in concentrate. So it's actually all there. And then we have the second bracha is Gevuros, strength, most notably Tchias HaMesim, which is mentioned 5 times there. And the reason is, and this again is a Rosh Hashanah reference very quickly, says the Medrash, because Avraham Avinu was just about to shecht Yitzchak and he died. Parcha Nishmasai, he died. They went up to Shamayim and they, don't know, quickly did whatever they do up there, I don't know, and then he came back to life. And he said, Baruch Atah Hashem Mechayeh HaMesim. He composed this bracha because he had experienced it. So, hence, the concept of Gevura, Rav Hutner puts it a little bit differently, if I can just digress for 10 seconds. Rav Hutner puts it a little bit differently. He says, you have here, you know, we say sometimes, we Jews, we believe 10 impossible things before breakfast. You know, have you ever heard that saying? It's like kind of a saying. We can do 10 impossible things before breakfast. What is the most insane thing from the perspective of science today? Tchias HaMesim. Cryogenics notwithstanding, right? To take somebody who is dead, as in really dead, green, smelling, you know, the whole thing, and to bring them back to life, that science at the moment says is an utter impossibility. The Rabbeinu Shalom, we believe this impossible thing before breakfast. The ne'emon ato lahachayos meisim. So hence, says Rav Hutner, we put it in the negative. Umidoi melach. I mean, he leaves all the competitors cold. Nobody else claims because it's an impossibility. It is kind of the definition of impossibility, is Tchias HaMesim. So we say, he just leaves them, he leaves them in the dust. Well, by not leaving us in the dust, sorry. So that is Yitzchak. So it's all forms of Gevura, and the rain is also bringing back, etc. That's Yitzchak. And then we come to the third bracha, which is K'neged Yaakov, Ato Kadosh, V'Shimcha Kadosh, U'Kdoshim B'chol Yom Yehalalu Chosela. It's slightly more complicated to explain how and why Yaakov is connected to Kedusha. It's a pasuk in Yeshaya, V'Hikdichu es Kadosh Yaakov, V'es Elokei Yisrael Ya'aritzu. But we're going to endeavor to try and explain it. So I've given you that is the order, the familiar format of all Shemona Esreis. We have one more matrioshka, which is Hagodol, Hagibor, V'Hanoira. Says the Ramchal, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Godol is Gedula, is Chesed, expansiveness, giving. Hagibor is Din, and then Noira. Here again we have Yaakov, Noira. Okay, so the first 3 brachas are different aspects of appreciating Hashem before we launch into whether it's on a regular day our shopping list, on a Shabbos an appreciation of Shabbos, on a Yom Tov our appreciation of Yom Tov. Now that I've said that, I think it's a good job you're sitting down. Please sit down. I'm scared you're gonna, yeah? No, you don't fall down, okay? Because it's really shocking. Let's look at this. So we go through Shemona Esrei. For the moment, we're going to leave out the 4 little insertions. Maybe we'll have time to speak about them another time, right? So we add in the Zochreinu L'chaim, we add the Micha Moicha, and look at this. It's all going swimmingly. Look on this page. That's good, really nice. Yeah. So Ato Kodesh V'Shimcha Kodesh Kodesh B'Chol Yom Yehalalu Chosela, and I'm ready to say what I always say: Baruch Atah Hashem Hakel HaKodesh. Whoa! Look at the next page. Uvechein tein pachtecha, uvechein tein kavod, uvechein tzadikim, v'simloich, Kodesh Atah. Forget what they even mean. Forget what's in it. But where are they? What on earth are they doing here? This is bang in the middle of a bracha, which is usually a Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, Simchas Torah, Purim, Shmini Atzeres. This is nothing. This is Ata Kodesh, Shimcha Kodesh, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Kodesh. Forget the fact that we're going to say HaMelech HaKodesh, which is important, but there's something incredible going on over here. Somehow, now we know why, because this has to do with Yaakov, Kedushat Yaakov, so Noraim, Yamim Noraim. It means that somehow the essence of all of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippurim are manifest within Kedusha. It has to do somehow, essentially, existentially, get away with that word. It has something to do with elementally, basically, fundamentally, yes? Kedusha. This is what this is all about. This whole thing, this Rosh Hashanah, this Yom Kippurim, this Yamim Noraim, it's all here. It's all within Kedusha. So that should be just the first point that should really just jump up out of the page. That's incredible. Let's try and understand it now. That was the difficult part. So let's, and this is what we really want to try and do this evening, is look through these, see if we can come to some sort of understanding of what the theme might be. And yeah, we'll go through the translations as well. But before we get to that, we've got a little bit of work to do. So page 2, please. And really here, what I want to try and do is, this is very well known. Some of you will certainly know this. And there's a song, I think, one of these modern Hasidic songs about it. But this is a psukim in Nehemiah, where they came across a Sefer Torah. It's a strange, needs understanding what happened. But either way, they came across a Sefer Torah. Newsflash. And they opened it up. Vayikru b'Sefer Torah Salikim v'soyim seichel vayavinu b'mikra. They read from the scroll, the teaching of God. They translated it. They understood it. Vayom Nehemiah. And Nehemiah read it and read it with the Kohanim and the Levim, and he said, Hayom Kodoshu L'Hashem Elokeichem. Today it was Rosh Hashanah. They came across the Sefer Torah. There was some ignorance, whatever it was, and that's really not for now. But clearly they were unaware of the significance and the meaning. And how does Ezra, by the way, how does Ezra describe the day? Kodesh. That fits with what we're saying, obviously. Kodesh, Ata Kodesh. Hayom Kodoshu L'Hashem Elokeichem. Al tis'avlu v'al tivku. Do not mourn and do not cry. Ki kol ha'om. Ki boichim kol ha'om k'shomam es divrei HaTorah. Because once they realized what was going on, they all started crying. And he said to them, don't cry. Vayom Elohem, he said to them, Ichlu mashmanim, shesu mamtakim, v'shilchu monos le'inochele. Who knew Mishlech monos on Rosh Hashanah? Huh? It's not a joke. There's something in that. He said to them, eat nice foods. Go home and eat nice foods and drink sweet wines and send presents to those who are less fortunate than you. Ki kodosh hayom ladoneinu. Again, that word. For today is holy. Is that a reason to go and, yay, let's party, for it's a holy day? I mean, what's going on? Va'al teyotzevu, but don't be depressed. Don't be anxious. Don't be depressed. Ki chedvas Hashem hi mo'uzchem. Because the joy of Hashem is the source of your strength. Now the truth is, this tells us something quite important. You see, Rosh Hashanah actually is an incredible enigma. It is meant to be an enigma, and it has to be an enigma. Meaning something that's difficult to understand. Why? Because it's the only one of our Yomim Tovim that is on the first of the month. Tiku b'chodesh shofar b'keseh liyom chageinu. The Pasuk says, blow the shofar on the b'chodesh, on Rosh Chodesh. All our other Yomim Tovim, no other biblical Yom Tov is on Rosh Chodesh. What does that signify? B'keseh, says the Gemara. It's a time when the moon is covered. You've really got to look hard. You can't really see at the beginning of Rosh Chodesh. It's not easy to see at all. You've really got to look hard to go and even try and find it. And in other words, it's shrouded in mystery. That's what it means. And why is that? And how is that? Well, it's quite obvious. Because what does Rosh Hashanah celebrate, for want of a better word, the creation of everything, or the creation of man, to be more precise. Now, I don't know about you, but I barely do mornings. I certainly don't do creation ex nihilo, creating something from nothing. It is by definition something we cannot understand, by very definition. You cannot understand, and we're not meant to. It's fine. You don't need to understand how HaKadosh Baruch Hu took some earth and something and made a kugel, and we got a man. You cannot understand it. The process of moving from nothing, real nothing, non-contingent, in nothing, to time and space and thing. And this is what Rosh Hashanah is about. So of course it's covered. Of course it's something that we're not going to be able to appreciate. But even more than that, there is a contradiction in the day itself. And so it's really simple once you start to think about it. And we'll come back to Yaakov and we'll start tying the threads together. Why did Hashem create the world? You all know the answer to this. It's, that's Derech Hashem 101. Why did Hashem create the world? Don't all shout at once. Okay. To give, simple as that, correct. Thank you, obviously. To give. He's a perfect being. He lacks nothing. He can only give. He cannot take, by definition. So he's giving. Olam chesed yiboneh. But it says, Bereshis bara Elokim. What was the mechanism by which and through which he created? Din. Absolute din. Bereshis bara Elokim. Elokim is din. Judgment, justice, harsh, unyielding, uncompromising. So there you have your contradiction. That's it. There you go. Why did he create? Chesed. What was the mechanism? Din. So I have a day which is Yom HaDin. It's a day of judgment and justice, and either today or next week we'll talk about that in a bit more detail. At the same time, it is based on, what was the motivation for all of this was love. There you've got your tension. And Yaakov has to come along and try and help us resolve that. That's at the root of it. That is and that's why he says, by the way, that's where your Mishlech Monos comes in. Just by the way, in case you're wondering. To echo the divine sentiment of giving. So Mishlech Monos is absolutely appropriate. Connect to that motivation of Hashem to give. At the same time, and this is really the resolution in simple terms, what is the greatest chesed you can give anybody? Teach a man to fish. Give him a job. Give him, her, the ability, the tools, the strength, the courage to justify as much as they can their own existence by their own hard work. That is the greatest chesed of all. So Hashem makes demands of us. Why? Why does he give us free will? This is the Yom Tov of free will. This is the anniversary of free will. This is the day when Hashem says, he creates this magnificent being and says, you have real choice. And Adam didn't. Where's it coming from? It's totally coming from love. But he had to justify himself. And he sinned, and there was real consequences. This is a world of harsh consequences. Now, how come his tshuva didn't work? That's a great question, not for now. So we have this inherent contradiction, if you like, within. And this is what we're good at. This is what we're good at. I want to take you to page 4. And this is a beautiful, this is Rabbeinu Yonah in his commentary on Brachos, on Gemara Brachos. It's on the right-hand column. I've just scribbled underneath where it says the word Gemara. And there is a beautiful Gemara. The Gemara says, there's a passage which says, Ivdu es Hashem b'yira, v'gilu bira'odah. Serve Hashem with fear. V'gilu bira'odah. Exult. Be happy with trembling. Happiness and trembling coexisting. V'gilu bira'odah. That is Rosh Hashanah. Says the Rabbeinu Yonah, where I've scribbled there. Tam hadover. I'll quickly read it and translate it. Tam hadover. The reason of the matter is kadesh la yimoshech mitech hasimcha. Don't use your simcha l'ta'anuge ha'olam v'yishkach inyonei habayri. Don't use it just to go and do your own thing. Al kein tzarich la'arvev zeh im zeh. There needs to be a mixture, a balance. Kadesh yalakav ha'mamutza. And he goes on to say after the brackets, even though in any other sphere of existence, fear and joy cannot coexist. It's one or the other. If you are afraid of somebody or something, you are anxious, you're worried. The uniqueness of our relationship with Hashem is our ability, our imperative, our obligation to combine these two emotions. Adarabba, כשהאדם מזבונן בגדולתו ויורא מלפניו. The more you have a genuine appreciation and an understanding, which does generate an awesomeness, a realization of awe. It's not the fear that you're going to get smacked out of existence. It's not that sort of fear. It's noira. It's not yira. It's noira. It's awesome. So at that moment, you realize, Yismach v'yogil ba'isa yira. You rejoice in having understood that yira. Because as a result of it, psychologists tell us, we know this, when a person has a meaning to their life. Nietzsche said people can live with any how as long as there is a why. And this is borne out by study after study after study of happiness, of longevity. It has nothing to do with material wealth. It has to do with a life of meaning, where you feel rightly or wrongly, but where there is meaning and purpose. The Beis Halevi puts it this way. Beis Halevi in Parshas Bereshis gives a simple mashal. It's not so simple. You fall overboard. I think I've said this before, but I don't remember to you. If I have, just pretend you haven't heard it before. Thank you. Somebody falls overboard in the North Sea. In the winter, you have 90 seconds before hypothermia sets in, and you just start dying. That's why the trawlermen, they all have to practice getting their survival suit on within 90 seconds. You've got to keep doing this. So you fall overboard into the North Sea, and a hand comes out and grabs you. So on the one hand, boy, are you petrified. If that hand leaves go, you're gone. You're gone. So you have at that same moment in time two conflicting emotions. On the one hand, you're still absolutely petrified. You realize that your entire existence depends on that person's ability, their grip. How much spinach did that guy have for breakfast? At the same time, you feel so loving and warm and grateful towards them. Absolutely can coexist. Chaim b'ritzaynai. That realization that rega ba'apoi, chaim b'ritzaynai. Life is every single second as a result of the Ratzon Hashem. So these two things can and do coexist. Let's get back to because I don't want to, there's so much more still to do. So this is the challenge of the Yamim and Noraim altogether, and certainly of Rosh Hashanah. What's Rosh Hashanah in the Torah? Yom Teruah Yehi Elochem, a day of blowing. That's it. Doesn't even tell you what to blow, when to blow, well, how much to blow, why. It's a day of blowing, that's it. There is no mention that it is a day of din, a day of judgment. And by the way, in most of the Nusach, there's no mention of that. There's no mention of it. And that's fascinating. Why is that fascinating? Because do you know what it's acknowledging? That it would be arrogant in the extreme to actually think that we could get by din and judgment of Hashem. It's impossible. It is actually impossible. The Gemara says, and it's tomorrow. The Gemara says that if the Rabbeinu Shalom judged Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, they would fail. Din means utter accountability for every second, every thought, everything. And that's what happened. Bereshis bara Elokim. He created. And immediately, what did he do? Shitef imay midas harachamim. He created something which we can't talk about too much tonight, but it's not chesed and it's not din. It's something which is in between and manages to walk a tightrope between the two. It's called rachamim. It's a little bit of din and a little bit of chesed. And that's what Yaakov brings. And that's what the Yom Noraim is. But here's the secret. Here's the secret. Rosh Hashanah is a Yom Tov. And we're meant to wear Yom Tov clothes. We're meant to, he said, go, l'chu v'ishmanim sumam takim, don't cry. But he could only tell them not to cry because they were crying. If they hadn't cried, he would have told them, you'd better don't cry. That means you haven't understood what's going on. You hear? It's only if you are crying. That means you get it. Great. You don't need to cry anymore. Let's explain that a little bit. Okay? And here we get to the heart of the matter. And here is something which I was astounded. I knew bits of this, hadn't put it all together. It sounds like it's pure Kabbalah, and we are going to learn a little bit of Zohar, but it's actually mentioned by the Rishonim. The Reb David Abu Darham says this, brought in the Torah. That word, uvechein. There is 3 times here, uvechein. In the different nuschos, in the different texts, they do it slightly differently. In the Nusach Hari, it's uvechein, and the Zohar, it's uvechein is gadal, uvechein tein pachtecha, uvechein tein kavod, which is, again, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, gedula, which is chesed, pachtecha, which is Yitzchak, and kavod, which is Yaakov, glory. But either way, that word, let's think about that word. That word comes once in Tanakh. It's beautiful. Esther Hamalka. She says, she is told, you've got to go into the king. Got to go into the king. And she says, no way, I can't go into the king, I haven't been called to go into the king. And Mordechai says to her, you have to go. And she says, Lech kenoises kol haYehudim, bring all the Jews together. When else in the calendar do all the Jews come together? Maybe for an hour on Yom Kippur, if you're lucky. In England, that's how it works. That's how it works, yeah. Keep Lech kenoises kol haYehudim. V'tsumu alai, and fast for me 3 days. Laila v'yom, that's 72 hours, which is the gematria of uvechein, says the Abu Dharam. Uvechein ovay el hamelech, and with fasting I will come to the king. V'kasher of asher lo chados, I have no right to be there. V'kasher ovadati. She says, I will do it. Whatever will be, will be. Uvechein ovay el hamelech, I will take that attitude. And ovay el hamelech. The Zohar HaKodesh, you have it here on, if you want to look at it, on page 5, says a really interesting thing. There are various names of Hashem, as I'm sure you are aware. There are also different ways of taking the name of Hashem, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and spelling it differently. It depends how you spell a Hey, depends how you spell a Vav. There are 4, this is big sugya in Kabbalah. There is one called the name of 72. Which is Keneged Yaakov Avinu. There are 3, this is a Gemara, 3 psukim in the Torah, which have 72 letters in them, and they follow each other, in Beshalach. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed himself, Umalchusoi v'rotzoi nekiblu aleihem. We accepted his malchus willingly at the Yam Suf. And the Zohar explains there are these 3 psukim, and it's a Gemara. Vayisa, Vayovoi, Vayet. 3 psukim in Beshalach, which each have 72 letters. I've just highlighted it here for you, top of page 5. Omer Rav Yesa, Ashkachna Beroza do Bitkiuso de Rav Hamnuna Saba. The Tkiyos of Rav Hamnuna, we find this is where he gets it from. Tlas, Uvechein, Uvechein, Uvechein. Lekabel hanetlas. The 3 uvecheins, uvechein is 72, correspond to those 3 times in the Torah where we are told, without even understanding it, that the 72 letters of each of those psukim, which correspond to Uvechein, is that which is used here in our Nusach to introduce the Malchus of Hashem. So we have, and let's start going into it a little bit. We have, first of all, we say Uvechein, and therefore, and thus. Otherwise that word didn't seem to make any sense. Uvechein, tein pachtecha Hashem Elokeinu al kol ma'asecha, ve'imoscha al kol ma'ashebarosa. This is the most bizarre thing. We say to Hashem, please make us afraid. And there are some people that apparently that like going on roller coasters. They get a thrill from it. I would rather, I don't know what, do the dishes or something. It's not my thing. I have vertigo. And some people, they want to go and be Beseda, but it's a thrill, I suppose, being on the edge of death or whatever it is. But this is different. We're saying Uvechein. What is this tefillah? What is this? Uvechein tein pachtecha. And notice, this is universal. As there's a lot of our tefillahs on Rosh Hashanah. And we start from the universal and we move to the particular. In other words, if we are to develop and get an appreciation of Hashem's Malchus of Hashem in its greatest form, Hashem lemelech al kol haaretz. It's all very well being king of Davy Jones' locker, as I think the Americans say. We do this in Aleinu. I mentioned it the other day. What was I saying it to? Aleinu. We've spoken about this before. The two parts of Aleinu. Yes? Nodding. Yes. The first part of Aleinu is all negative. Exclusivist. Aleinu l'shabeach shelo yasan yorotzim. V'lo saman g'shlosh. Shelo saman. They're wasting their time. Everybody else. We're great. We're cool. We're amazing. It's negative. The emphasis is negative. It's exclusivist. It is supremacist. It is borderline racist. If you don't know what it is and what to do with it. But then we say Va'al Kain, a form of Uvechein, but then we say Va'al Kain. Therefore, Hashem, what do I do with this knowledge? And then we mention no less than 7 times the word Kol. Kol Risheoret. Kol Yeshvi Sable. Where do I go with this knowledge? It is an obligation to make Yisgadal v'Yiskadash Shmei Rabba. That is Rosh Hashanah. That's why this is here. That's why it's Kedusha. To broaden and to be Mekadesh Shem Shamayim. It is the recognition. Therefore, don't mention Din. There's no point mentioning Din. The minute you mention Din, if you really, really get Din, you'll just cry forever. There's no way you could. This is the paradox. The way to be Zoiche Badin is not by acknowledging the din, but by saying essentially, I get it. There are only 2 ways to live your life. And here I'll be a little bit more edgy, perhaps, to stop you all falling asleep. Being a frum Jew, for want of a better term, at its heart, is by no means just about the way somebody looks, or even the rituals, and of course they must do all of those things. But at its root, and this is something incredibly deep and personal, and really only you know, Hashem knows, obviously, and that is, you either are living your life, but you have got to pay the price. So I keep Shabbos, and I eat kosher, but actually I'm pretty much, it's my life and my agenda. So I'm a religious Jew, so I do stuff, and I believe in it. But actually, the way I heard it from my Rebbe in a very, very sharp moment, when he asked how it was possible for Jews to daven Shemona Esrei and say, Baruch Aleinu, Hashem, give me parnasa, and then 2 minutes later go and try and cheat somebody. What's going on in their brain? And the way he put it, forgive me, it's in Yiddish, but he would say, Rabbeinu Shalom, he said, ich kenn mein Geschäft. Yeah, it's good. I know how to do my business. Du bitte steh nicht. Leave me alone. I know you can muck it up. You're God. You're very powerful. Just butt out. That's really what his Baruch Aleinu means. When he wasn't actually asking, he wasn't acknowledging you, Rabbeinu Shalom, are the source of everything, and it all depends on you. What you're actually saying is, I'm a pretty smart guy. I've got the connections, I've got the experience, I know exactly what, I've got the smarts, I know exactly what I'm doing. You're God, oh boy, can you muck it up? Do me a favor, just stay out of it. Let me get on with my life. It's very sharp, but it's real. And there's another way to do it. The exact opposite of the way it ought to be done, which is, this is your world. That's what Rosh Hashanah is. This is your world. You created it. This is your world. And for some weird reason, you want me in it. But it's that constant awareness and acknowledgement that it's your world, your rules. And I'm on your team. That's the bottom line. I'm a team player. I bring whatever it is that you have given me uniquely to your team, your world. This is Team God, and I'm the cheerleader. Without pachad, without amor, it's reverence, it's awe. Yes, it is dread. Because if you don't have that at some point, you actually don't understand it. But that doesn't mean religious Jews, even Yiras Shamayim, doesn't mean that we walk around with a Calvinist, whatever the word is, this very, Ivdus Hashem b'simcha, but v'gilu bir'ada. It's what Rabbeinu Yonah says, we put these two things together. And therefore we don't ask anything for ourselves. We say, Tein pachducha Hashem Elokeinu al kol ma'asecha. Ve'imasa, different levels. We don't have time to go into the difference between. Think about it next time you say Oz Yosher. Note that the order is reversed. Tipel aleim imosov or fachad. Here it's pachad and then emor. We could deconstruct a lot more of this. But I think we need to get the big picture. V'yeyosu chulam aguda achas. It's not just mom and apple pie. It's not just some sort of wishy-washy, sitting in the forest singing Kumbaya. It's v'yeyosu chulam aguda achas la'asois ritzoincha b'leivav shalim. You want us here. And what has to happen is at some point, and it is our deepest wish, is that everybody would just do their part, and they would all be aguda achas la'asois ritzoincha, to do your rotzeh. For as we know, Hashem Elokeinu she'ashol tam lefanecha. We know that you're the boss. V'shimcha noira. And then we move very quickly. I'll finish in 5 minutes. Then we move down into the slightly more particular. Uv'chein tein kovod Hashem la'amecha. This is an incredible thing. Give honor to your people. Pardon? Sounds a little bit selfish or a little bit, egotistical. No, but the answer is amecha. Tehiloli reyecha v'sikvatoiva l'dorshecha ufischin pela miachalim loch. I'll translate. And now Hashem, give kavod to your people. We are your people. That's why we should be glorious and dignified and worthy. We should be respectable. In English it goes so well, I don't know how we say it. You command respect, you don't demand respect. You just have to be a respectable person. And we are identified as your people. And therefore, praise to those who fear you. Instead of opening up as, and we are our own worst enemy. This is about kvod shamayim. This is about us walking around with an incredible sense of responsibility. If we are identified as a Jew, and especially as an Orthodox Jew or Jewess, we're ambassadors. Everything we say, we do, we don't do, we smile, we don't smile, we're polite, we're courteous, we're all those things. This is not about you personally, it's not about me. It's who or what we are meant to represent. And Chilul Hashem is the greatest Aveira. There is no greater Aveira. And therefore give praise to those who fear you. People that have Yiras Shamayim are usually ridiculed, they're despised. They are the butt of all the jokes in the secular press. Sometimes they deserve it. Maybe they don't have Yiras Shamayim, but somebody who has, the Gemara says, Yirei Shamayim Devarov Nishma'im. Somebody who has Yiras Shamayim, their words are heard. There's just a certain dignity and a respect. There are millions of our brothers and sisters, and indeed people around the world, who are searching for meaning. It's incredible. It's the most affluent society we've ever known, and more than ever before, people are searching for meaning and for purpose. That's what they're looking for. So Rebbeinu Shalom, give them that opening. Tikva tova, upischain peh. Let there be an opening. Lam yachelin loch. Why should the Dawkins and the Hitchens of this world be preeminent? Why shouldn't there be plausible, rational? Why shouldn't it be? Why the shoe should be on the other foot? That's something to daven for if we care. And then we move from the generally to the amecha to tzadikim yeruvi yismachu. Because to the extent, and this is the truism, and we'll finish with this for this evening. There's much more to say, but this is just to open up the topic. The more a person feels and lives and understands, and ultimately that is what Rosh Hashanah is about. It is about, and this is what the Yom Noraim generally are about, is about the recognition, realigning one's Rotzain. What is your Rotzain? Your Rotzain is your deepest, most elemental bit, the thing which you want, and you don't even know why you want it. If you can explain it, it's not your Rotzain. It's not intellectual. It's not open to intellectual. Ein ta'am l'Rotzain. It's just who you are. It's what you are. The truth is, every single one of us, deep down, who we really are, we want to do Torah mitzvahs. But the Yetzer Hara, who's in marketing, manages to persuade us that we don't. That's the marketing. He manages to persuade us that it is us who wants to say Lashon Hara. No, we don't. But he makes us believe that we do. That's what he does. So we need to realign our Rotzain. And that takes time. We've still got 3 weeks. You cannot fall out of bed into Rosh Hashanah. It's not possible. It doesn't work. It's a joke. The Zohar actually says on this week's parasha, very quickly, I'll probably finish with this. The Zohar says in this week's parasha, it talks about a very interesting parasha in the Torah about the woman who is a captive in the war, and you can marry her, you can't marry her, you do convert her, you don't convert her, whatever, the Eish Sifas Torah, which is a very strange, but the Zohar explains it allegorically and says, you take this, then it's talking about the neshama. Through the year, the neshama is a shivya, it's captured, it's captive. It's not free. Ubochso es aviha ve'es imo yerach yomim. It cries for its mother and its father for a month of days, says the Zohar, do yarcha de Ellul. The neshama has to cry for aviha imo. Its connection, its Rebbeinu Shalom, Knesset Yisrael, that's aviha ve'imo. Yerach yomim, a month of days, do yarcha de Ellul. This is a month of realigning our Rotzain, rediscovering our Rotzain. There is this thing called Rotzain. It's who you are, it's what you are. It is not subject to analysis. If you can analyze it and explain it, it's not your Rotzain, it's something below that. It's elementally who you are, and we are our neshama. And our neshama wants this and realizes this. And the Avodah, each of us in our own way, before is to get to this point, so that when we do stand on Rosh Hashanah and say and realize in the Ato Kodesh, in the bracha which is Yaakov, the ability to resolve the contradiction between Hashem's din and chesed, and to submit and to yield to that, and to cry, and then to be able to stop crying and be happy, because we know that we submit and yield ourselves to din, and when we do that, that is our salvation. Because after all, he chose us and he wants us. The only thing we need to do is be a team player. And then and then we come to Hashem. I don't come as an arrogant person, but then hopefully he listens. Okay, let's start.